Okay, so let's get some callers in here. Kempsey in Burnville, Illinois, listening on WCPT in Chicago. Hey, Kempsey, you're on the air with Dr. Wakefield and Del Bigtree.
Thank you, Tom. My story's the same. My 2-month-old baby boy got the DPT, developed a high fever, developed a seizure. Today he is diagnosed as Asperger's. He lives in a group home. And, the worst thing is my neighbor had a baby the same time, and she wasn't vaccinating her baby. And I said to her, what do you mean you're not vaccinating your baby? She said, well, we don't know, what about this, blah, blah. My son is living in a group home in Wisconsin. Her son is graduating from Northwestern University right now. And we're fighting Scott Walker's cutting disability in Wisconsin. So, yeah, I'm emotional. And you bring it up, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer. The pediatricians, they make fun of you. It's as if you're just a wacko. And that's what adds insult to injury. And when Hillary said, oh, only the gun manufacturers are protected, I tweeted Tom saying, not true. We have no recourse. Obviously, I'm emotional, and thank you for your work.
Yeah. Kempsey, thank you for the call. Andrew, Del, thoughts on Kempsey's situation?
From my perspective, Tom, here is the mother saying what happened to her child, the fundamental basis of clinical medicine, what happened to this patient. This mother was not anti-vaccine. She took her child along to be vaccinated on schedule. She's not looking for an excuse. She's reporting to the doctors precisely what happened. It raises the issue that you brought up earlier. It's not simply MMR. This was an issue of DPT causing an encephalopathy or a brain reaction that then led on to an autism diagnosis. And, of course, now her son is in a group home. What happens to these individuals when this tidal wave, this tsunami of children now coming through the system, aging out as adults, there is nothing for them in the future. It's going to be a major, major drain, quite apart from the devastating impact on families. But how are we going to care for these individuals going forward?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Nick in Chicago. Hey, Nick, you're on the air with Dr. Wakefield and Del Bigtree.
Similar story. Stepson got the vaccine. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but a day or half later, lost all his words. Wasn't eating. He used to grab food off of my wife's plate and wasn't eating. Now he's got high functioning autism, Asperger's as well. He's 11. We got a 2-year-old we haven't vaccinated yet, and I have another one on the way. What is a solution? Because I can't take my daughter to daycare without getting vaccinated, and I was vaccinated. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, but if there's no way to split it up, is there or no option to split it up, or is there a push to get those separated?
Yeah. Now Nick, our guests can't offer you any kind of specific medical advice. That would be against the law. But in a situation like this, more broadly speaking, Nick, thank you for the call. And in a situation more broadly like this, Dr. Wakefield or Del Bigtree, whichever you want to jump in, or both, what's a parent to do?
Del, you go first.
Well, I think Andy puts it best. I think that, and I'll let him talk about a mother's instinct, but look we have laws that are taking away our ability to do anything the way we want. In California, it's just been mandated, that without exception, we have to get all the vaccines on the schedule the CDC says we have to, and there's nothing we can do about it. Now, as a parent, if I hear a radio thing like this and I go and do my research and I say, you know what, that MMR bothers me. I see that in this study that it says 12 to 18 months is more dangerous than after 3 years old. Why in the United States of America am I not allowed to say, you know what, I'm going to delay that vaccine till after 3 years old, or I'm going to spread my vaccines apart. My pediatrician today wants me to take 7 vaccines, put all of these viruses, 13 different viruses into my baby at one time. I don't think that feels like a good idea. Something about that seems wrong. I'd like to spread them out more. I'd like to take more time. I'd like to see if I can get lower doses. All of these things are things a parent should be allowed to do in a free country. And it's being taken away from us. So we need to stand up for our rights. People have got to stop these mandatory vaccine laws. We've got to repeal SB 277. It's the end of freedom in this country. What we're saying with these laws is that the government owns my baby, not the parent. parent. The government will inject whatever it wants into my baby, and it's nothing I can do about it. That's insanity.
Well, it seems like it's the government at the behest of Merck.
Correct. I mean, and then you have the most powerful lobby in the country now paying your politicians to get elected. And what do you think they're doing? I mean, I love Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders has come out against every lobby and this idea that, he knows that lobbies are controlling our government. But I'm a little upset that he doesn't, he calls out pharmaceutical as being this terrible lobby, yet he still says he supports mandatory vaccines. I don't understand the disconnect.
Well, this is totally, I do. It's totally radioactive. If you're running for political office, the wrath of God is going to come down on you. We have 1 minute before the break. Dr. Wakefield, your thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. I think there has to be an absolute moratorium on any mandatory vaccination law. This man should be able to send his children to school without being forced into having them vaccinated according to anybody else's defined schedule. He's experienced at first hand the devastating impact that these vaccines might have. There also needs to be a moratorium on the introduction of any new vaccines into the schedule until this issue is resolved scientifically.
Dr. Wakefield, why is it that, as I said, my recollection is I had the polio vaccine. I remember, I was 5 years old. This was 1956. We lined up in school. They gave us a sugar cube. And then the next year, I think it was, we got the smallpox vaccine where they punctured a hole in my arm, which I still have. And I don't, frankly, remember any other vaccines. There may have been some, but it was just a few. Now we got kids getting 10, 15 vaccines. Well, we're hitting a break. I'll ask you that after the break, if I may. We're talking with Dr. Andrew Wakefield and Del Bigtree, the director and producer, respectively, of the new movie VAXXED, VAXXED, themovie.com. We'll be right back. So, Dr. Wakefield, I'm not sure if my question was rhetorical or specific. Your thoughts?
Yes, I think that we are now vaccinating against diseases which are really trivial, like mumps. And this is not my impression. This is the impression of the CDC itself, who did an analysis of the merits of this vaccine when it was first introduced. And I think a lot of this comes down to the passage of that act which excluded or removed liability from the pharmaceutical industry. When you could make a car with no brakes and people died and you didn't get sued, why would you do safety studies? But there's a perfect model, sort of market model to make a huge profit. And when that act was passed, there was a dramatic acceleration of the number of new vaccines put onto the market for diseases which are of increasingly little merit. So I think it's a commercially driven imperative. It's about the bottom line, and it's not taking into account the need for adequate safety testing in children. And we are in a parlous situation. We are operating from a state of almost complete ignorance about vaccine safety, and it's getting more and more complex by the day. Tom, there are 270 new vaccines in the pipeline, and once those are put onto the schedule, what is going to happen? Oh, my. That's amazing. Let's pick up some calls here. Deborah in Seattle. Deborah, thanks for watching Free Speech TV on DirecTV. You're on the air with Dr. Wakefield and Del Bigtree.
Hi. So I am a grandmother now, but I remember watching my nephew, and he received those vaccinations, and he is autistic. Now I fast forward to now, and my son has a daughter, and she just turned a year, and I'm noticing the same types of characteristics from my nephew to my granddaughter now. She's, just like what you guys were saying, kind of lethargic.
Post-vaccine?
Yeah, post-vac. She's had the vaccine. And she's not trying to walk. She has 3 other brothers and sisters that run around the place crazy. So, usually that spurs them to want to develop faster, and she's just not doing it. So I just wanted to ask the doctor, it sounds like that goes hand in hand with all the other cases, but I just wanted to confirm that because I've been thinking that to myself, and I've brought it up to my son, but of course he doesn't want to hear it. Right. But I'm curious to know. And then also the movie, is this something that's going to be shown in all areas? Because I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest, and I know sometimes movies like this, you never really hear about, and you have to creep around to find them.
There you go. We just have 1 minute to the break, Dr. Wakefield.
Yes, Adele can pick up the question about the distribution of the film, but please trust your instincts. Get informed. There is an abundance of information out there about vaccine safety. We're not in a position on this show to give any kind of medical advice, but please go to nvic.org, National Vaccine Information Center.org. Get your son to watch this movie. Urge him to get informed, to get educated. And go to the CDC's website as well. Compare and contrast, but please get educated.
Yeah. What is... I'm sorry, go ahead, Del.
I was just going to say, we're coming to a theater near you. Our success in New York, Los Angeles, now we're going to Dallas, Plano. We're in Phoenix, Peoria, opening up this weekend. It takes time. Theaters are afraid of this topic, but they are seeing the success, and we are moving it to theaters all over this country, all over the world. And if that doesn't get there, then we will have video-on-demand options coming soon also.
That's great. Del Bigtree, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, we'll be right back with more calls for you guys. Stick around. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. We're talking with Dr. Andrew Wakefield, the director, Del Bigtree, the producer of the new movie VAXXED, VAXXED. It's coming to Peoria, Illinois, Phoenix, Arizona. We're on radio stations in both those cities. It's in Los Angeles, or it was. We're on the air there. We're on the air everywhere through Sirius XM and Free Speech TV, so you can check this thing out. Is there a website? Oh, the website for the movie is VAXXED the movie, VAXXED the movie .com. So let's see here. Sally in Rancho Cucamonga, California. You are on the air with Dr. Wakefield and Del Bigtree.
Hello to all. I'll be as quick as I can, but my experience was back in the mid-80s with my son who had the MMR, and it seems like it wasn't a multiple all-in-one thing, and when it came time for him to have his first series of pertussis, he reacted by falling asleep, went into a sleep for almost 4 hours until I didn't think anything of it, figuring he was just tired, wake him for dinner, and he would not wake up. I immediately called the doctor, told him to take him to the emergency. I did. Can't even remember at this point what they did, but he did eventually wake up, and their comment at the hospital was that he had a reaction to the vaccine and that his body was shutting down, basically. I don't know how he woke back up. What does that mean? What, he's dying, or was he going into a coma? I wasn't quite sure. But the thing I wanted to get at is that I immediately called my doctor, and I would think all these mothers would call their doctor, too, at first sight. And, what is the deal with the doctors? If you're buying a product, they're buying the vaccine, which I would guess they became aware of the problem. Why aren't they uniting to put pressure on the manufacturer of the vaccine to at least make it a single dose? Because I don't know, where are the doctors in all this?
Excellent point, Sally. And just, personal experience, one of our three kids reacted very, very badly to the MMR vaccine, got just sicker than a dog. Louise immediately turned around and drove him back to the doctor's office, where the doctors, they wanted her to sign a waiver of liability, which they had apparently forgotten to have her sign, and basically wouldn't talk to her until she did, which she was unwilling to do. Del, what you want to respond to our caller?
I mean, Tom, look at what we're dealing with here. We're seeing hundreds of these people show up to every screening of the film. They're everywhere. This is such a massive problem. I'm so glad you're doing this story. But ABC, NBC, all of these networks are saying, this is over. This story is done. We won't bring your story. We won't talk about your film. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Clearly, this is happening. We have a massive epidemic that is skyrocketing in this country. It's destroying our children, and yet the pharmaceutical industry and their sponsors of our television are controlling the message. I mean, for instance, you keep talking about Zika virus. The way this is being couched by the media is not fully transparent. Are you aware that just 11 months ago, Brazil mandated the Tdap vaccine for all pregnant women, and now all of a sudden we have birth birth defects. Add to that the fact that Zeke has been in Africa for 70 years with no known birth defect. All of these stories are being couched and written by the pharmaceutical industry. I'm not saying DTaP is causing these birth defects, but it certainly should be a part of the discussion if it just was introduced basically within the 9 months that these mothers all started being pregnant.
Yeah. So although, correlation is not always causation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
how is it not a part of the story, though?
Yeah. There you go. Dr. Wakefield, did you want to jump in, or should we pick up another caller here?
Just a brief comment, Tom, and this is something to sort of breaking news. We're reliably informed that the CDC, as early as next week, is going to put out data which is a further iteration, a further analysis of this same data set in an effort to absolve the MMR vaccine. This is extraordinary. Here you have a scientist from the CDC saying no fewer than 4 times the CDC is unfit to do any further vaccine safety research, and yet they're now putting out something which is based upon data that they accumulated in 2001 and seeking to absolve themselves of blame for fraud based upon the fact that they now believe they can absolve the MMR. This is utterly ridiculous. This is what we describe in medicine as data raking. It is abhorrent, and it is one of the things that they are now doing. Let us not forget, the film that we have made is about fraud at the CDC, the worst fraud in the history of medicine. And the efforts next week, if that's what happened, to absolve the MMR on a raking of the data many, many years later, is really, as Del said yesterday, a proof of the original fraud and is completely unacceptable. So please stay focused on the real issue here.
Del, I understand that, first of all, we just have 2 minutes until the end of the hour. If either of you would like to stick around for the next hour, I would be pleased to have you, and because we've got all these callers who want to talk to you. On the other hand, if you can't, that's cool, and I'll just put the callers on the air. And now I forgot what my question was going to be.
I can stick around. I think Andy has another engagement, but I can stick around for a while.
Great.
I can do 15 more minutes.
Okay, great. So we'll do that. There's a 6-minute newscast at the top of the hour. I remember the whistleblower. He wants to testify before Congress, Del, and no politician will subpoena him. What's going on with this? I mean, this guy actually wants to rat out his agency.
Well, I think for a year and a half, he's been saying, I want to speak to Congress. He can only speak to Congress. He's not a whistleblower for a tobacco industry or a private industry. He's a whistleblower for the government of the United States. That means that the things he has to say could be considered classified. The only reason he speaks in our film is because he didn't realize he was being recorded in the phone calls in which he was giving all this information out. So I think he's safe because it wasn't done with his knowledge. It was done legally, by the way, though, because we're recording those phone calls in what are called one-party states. But I think it's unbelievable. I mean, if you look at this situation in Flint, Michigan, where they had lead poisoning in their water, affecting tens of thousands of children, I guess is the number, they within 30 days were able to have a congressional hearing on this. For a year and a half, we have a whistleblower saying that they've committed fraud, that the MMR vaccine is causally linked to autism. A year and a half, and the Congress has not done its job. It's extremely disturbing. People need to contact their congressman and say, if you do not call William Thompson to the stand, I will not reelect you.
Yeah, William Thompson is the name of the whistleblower, and we want him deposed before Congress with a subpoena. Dr. Andrew Wakefield and Del Bigtree are with us. They'll be with us on the other side of the break. We've got the news coming up at the top of the hour. We will be back in 6 minutes. Stick around. You on the line with us, Dr. Andrew Wakefield, award-winning documentary filmmaker, director of VAXXED, From Cover Up to Catastrophe, VAXXED, themovie.com, and Del Bigtree, the producer of VAXXED, and great to have both you gentlemen with us. Anything left over from the last hour that either of you want to say before we pick up more phone calls? Del?
Just that I think, from my perspective, the media issue is just such a major one. We're really, if you think of journalism, it's considered the fourth branch of government. When you look at Thomas Jefferson saying you needed a free media, in order to maintain democracy. We're really, I think this film, what it's really outing to the American public is that journalism, in many ways, it's on its dying breath. I mean, certainly mainstream media. The fact that a whistleblower came forward from the government of the United States and not a single newspaper thought this was a story, didn't think it was important that one of our top scientists is saying that one of our vaccines is causing autism. Not Fox, not CNN, nobody will touch the story. And then in July of last year, you had Congressman Bill Posey step forward in front of the Congress, holding all of the documents you'll find in our movie, and saying to the Congress, I've done extensive interviews with Dr. William Thompson at the CDC. What he is saying is extremely disturbing. He's telling us that they pulled a garbage can in the middle of the room and threw out data. Thompson said he held on to his because he thought it would be illegal. He's right. It is illegal. We want people thrown in jail for what's taken place. But that you had a congressman say exactly that, plead with the Congress to bring this man forward. And forget about the Congress not doing their job. How is it that not a single mainstream newspaper, not the New York Times, LA Times, Washington Post, not any of our news networks thought this was a story? That is terrifying, Tom. That's why I'm so happy you're here. I mean, it's, you know, you're keeping journalism alive, but man, it's a terrifying moment in this country.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jimmy in Tolleson, Arizona. You are on the air with Del Bigtree and Dr. Andrew Wakefield.
Hi, it's a pleasure to talk to you. I'm also a parent of a severely autistic child. I'm to the point where I can't even work anymore because he's so violent and my wife can't take care of him. But I do remember, you know, a strange where he slept for, like 14 hours, I think, when after he got his vaccination. But my question is, I remember, he's 15 now, but I remember a long time ago reading an article about how there's really almost no autism in the Amish community. And interestingly enough, I tried to look up the article recently and I couldn't find it, so I don't know what happened to it. But my question is I've wondered if anybody's considered trying to prove this from a different way, which is, it's going to sound really far-fetched, but if we could maybe start a community of, you know, young adults who might have concerns and who are planning on having children, and you know, and have doctors there, actively studying, you know, where they don't have vaccinations in the community, or they don't have, you know, pesticides, the various things.
I got it, Jimmy. And that would be great. And is there a correlation, Dr. Andrew Wakefield? Is there a correlation between or how do you state that correlation? I mean, are there unvaccinated kids with autism? To Jimmy's question, and also to my question, why is it, you know, I'm 64 years old. I don't remember autistic kids when I was a kid. I don't remember any of them. I never knew an autistic kid until I was in my 30s. Why is that?
Let me first of all to that.
Thank you, Jimmy.
If autism had existed, it would have been described. The doctors of this century are not the best at describing disease. The doctors of the last century and the century before were exquisite in their description of human disease syndrome. So had it existed, it would have been described. This is a new epidemic. What your listener is talking about is a comparison of the fully vaccinated children against unvaccinated children. This is a study that was mandated by Congress, but the CDC has tacitly refused to do. Because I believe that because I think it would show that there is a dramatic difference. It is being done now by a private organization with a very large database. It is a baseline which we should have had from the very beginning. What are the long-term health outcomes in those who are fully vaccinated versus those who are unvaccinated? What your listener is talking about is a study going forward where people from this point on do not vaccinate their children. That's a prospective study. That is happening ecologically by default in the population because groups like chiropractors and others are avoiding immunization in their children. But the CDC argue that would be unethical because you're withholding vaccines from children when they're known to be beneficial. But it can be done by looking back at databases that are available. That should have been done. Congress mandated it, and the CDC refused to do it.
So in other words, the research has simply never been done. Nobody's ever compared a large cohort of unvaccinated children to a large cohort of vaccinated children to see if there's a statistical difference in rates of autism.
That is correct, at least that has been published formally in the medical literature.
That's astonishing. Dion in Odessa, Texas, you're on the air.
Yeah, Tom, y'all had already answered one of my questions. I have 2 sons that were born back-to-back, just under a year, both with autism. Now, having one would be one thing, but this is it's a little out there, and I want to try and see. I'm going to use the information you gave me to try and find out if I can help by having them study or check my kids to see if everything's okay. But my real worry is mainly for you, Tom, and this doctor, the fairness doctrine. One of the things that this doctor's talking about is being able to get the truth out. If there are no consequences for anything that the pharmacy does wrong, why should they change? And if I'm not mistaken, in 1930s, there was a whole country being told lies to control them. In the end, I believe there was also a group of soldiers who took the people from the local town through the concentration camps, showed it to them, and they had their statements were, well, we didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to be standing here on the other end of that. So we need the fairness doctrine back in journalism, journalists like yourself.
Yeah,
so.
Apropos of Del Bigtree's comments. Dion, thank you. I don't disagree with you at all. Kathy, that was more of a comment than a question, so let's get some questions here for our guests. Kathy in Etna, Wyoming, you are on the air.
Hi, Dr. Wakefield. In 1991, I gave birth to my first child, and I had to sign a waiver that clearly gave me the information that these vaccines, it gave me side effects, and it also added in there the words mental retardation and death. And I asked the doctor point blank, how do you expect me to sign this, and knowing that this shot could harm my child? And he said, oh, Kathy, it's rare. Don't worry about it. It's so rare. And he gave me the numbers, 1 in a million or whatever it was. Well, I think that's proof that I had to sign this form in 1991, that it could cause mental retardation or death. So isn't that loud and clear that these are harmful?
Dr. Wakefield, we're just about to the break here.
It's loud and clear. It's also present in the product inserts that are never given to parents to read before their children get vaccinated. And you have to bear in mind that Congress has acknowledged that vaccines cause autism, and indeed the courts in this country have compensated children for encephalopathy, that is brain damage leading to autism. So it is a matter of fact, and it is not simply does it or doesn't it. It's a question of the body count.
Right, and they have been compensated to the tune of $3 billion, parents have been, for their kids being injured by vaccines, Dr. Wakefield. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. I know you have to go, sir. You've got another interview at 3:20, or 2:20 rather, but Del Bigtree will stick with us. Dr. Wakefield, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.